Coach, you have those days when you catch all of them and you drop all of them. Is that just unfortunately Saturday was one of those days?
Yeah, we didn't have a day where we caught them all. That's for sure. I think we catch a few of those, it probably changes the entire complexion of the football game. But overall, those are just plays we're gonna have to make. And if we want to win games like Saturday, we have to make those plays. So I think our guys know that, and that's not the center out, just the receivers. I mean, we did some things at every position that we'd like to have back, and we'd like to do better. So right now we're just focused on getting better as an offensive unit, so we can go and perform the way we need to against Arkansas on Saturday.
Coach, the jet sweep has really changed the dynamic of the LSU running game. Ole Miss had done it for a number of years, quit doing it this year. What is the reasoning behind that?
Jet sweep's not an overly prominent part of the offense. I think you have to have a speed guy that can turn the corner to do that. It's just we feel like that can be an asset one week. We would utilize it. Right now, up to this point, it just hasn't been a part of what we're doing.
Phil, what kind of transition do you expect for Jason back to quarterback? Is there a lot of rust he'll need to shake off?
Jason Pellerin was a pleasure to coach in the spring, and it was hard to get him up and move him to H-back, but we just felt like that was the best thing to do for the team and the development of Jordan Tamu and the rest of those guys. It was nice to get him back in the room. And obviously it was a different atmosphere with Jordan and Jason and the rest of the guys. But mentally, I think he's an exceptionally bright football player, and I don't think the mental end will be as challenging as just getting reps at the speed of the game in practice, and so he'll get all the 2 reps this week.
Bill, how much, if any, does your job as play caller change with Jordan at quarterback as opposed to Shea?
Truthfully, looking at our playlist, and we'll have to formulate our game plan for Arkansas, but just looking at the master playlist with the offense, it really doesn't change any. I think Jordan throws the ball well enough to facilitate our passing game, and he has, I've said this before, he's got run talent, so he's not identical to Shea, but he's a very similar athlete, and so I don't foresee much changing with Jordan out there.
Obvious question. What was your assessment of how Jordan did Saturday night?
It was enjoyable to see him. He's a great kid, and he works hard. One of the reasons that we pretty much give equal reps to the 1s and 2s in practice is because we play with a lot of depth. We're playing 7, 8 linemen. We're playing 3 tight ends. We're playing right now probably about 3 running backs and 6 or 7 receivers. Well, if you're going to do that, you've got to give them all ample opportunity to get the game plan in and to practice the things that we're doing. So I think that's starting to pay dividends because we're playing more people. And that'll certainly pay dividends with Jordan because he's gotten almost equal reps to Shea this season in practice. And so we ran some more fundamental plays for him, so I didn't have a lot of thinking to do. I think that's the right thing to do for a guy that's going out there in a tight game, in a pressure situation. But we scored on both drives. He's got 2 drives that facilitated 10 points for us, and I think that's about as much as we could have asked from him on Saturday. Now it's a little different animal now, Chuck. He has to put the whole game plan in his mind. We're going to formulate the game plan with the idea that we have our backup quarterback starting on Saturday, so we're going to do some things to help him think quick and make plays. But he knows the system. Athletically, he's very capable, and so we just got to get him to translate what he knows to game speed on Saturday.
How's the team? What was the team's reaction after learning of Shea's injury, and does it help the team knowing that Jordan had that success against LSU?
What was their reaction to Jordan's success? No. Or Shea just being injured?
Shea's injury, when y'all broke the news to them, where are they emotionally right now with that?
I'm not sure how many of them knew even Jordan was coming out the first time. You know what I mean? Shea was in the tent. nobody really had word as to what was going on, and you know, I don't mean to downplay it, but our guys have been through a lot, and they're resilient. And I think it was next guy up attitude. We're all hurting for Shea. He works to see a guy like Shea work as hard as he did, and to have his season, end the way it did, knowing all the time and effort he put into preparing for this year. Just personally, it hurts you because you know how much he cares about it and how important it is to him. And I can't speak for all the players, but I'd be shocked if they didn't all feel that same way. But in the heat of the game, when the next guy rolls out there, whether it be quarterback, receiver, center, which we've gone through already, tight end, it doesn't matter. I think our guys it's that mentality of don't blink. We got to move on. We plug in the next guy and we move ahead. And Jordan told me he spoke to our O-line and spoke to the receivers. And as much as they're all disappointed in what happened to Shea, they all verbally gave him tremendous support. And I thought Jordan came into the meeting yesterday feeling pretty good about, the team being willing to rally around him offensively.
Hey, Phil, can you talk a little bit about, oh gosh, I'm blacking out. Who was your running back that played so well?
Jordan Wilkins.
Swinney. Talk a little bit about Swinney, please, and what you've seen in his development.
Swinney is, he's one of 4 or 5 guys right now that, and I would say our running backs come to work every day. And they all want to carry the ball and they all want to play more. Coach Nix does a fantastic job prepping them every week and motivating them. And they work hard. And so my point is we've got a group of running backs in that room with a great coach that prepares for each week. And Swinney finally got his opportunity. He saw some time at the end of the last couple of ball games and showed some flashes. And I think those flashes and that production, warranted a little bit more time this week. And so when it came time to spell Jordan, Penniman was one guy we went to, and Swinney was another, and I think he made the most of his opportunity. So we've been very happy with his recent production.
Any other questions? Okay.
Just talk about Arkansas defensively for us.
Arkansas is a little different than last year. They changed coordinators. They have a coach on staff that was there last year, but they're doing some different things. We're going to see an odd front. They're going to cover our center. They move around a lot more up front than LSU does. That causes some problems for you. And they're a little bit more multiple in coverage. So this week we might see the same initial picture up front, but I think from a coverage and a front standpoint, they're a lot more movement-oriented than LSU. That would be the biggest difference from last week to this week.
Coach, if you had to start Sims at center, obviously, then that may be a real possibility, I would think, going into this week. Who'd be his backup?
Javon Patterson would be his backup at center. And, Jordan's been playing in every game anyway, so I think we're pretty content at center with, the rotation of guys that we're using. And but if we did have to go to another and it wasn't Rawlings, it would be Javon Patterson.
Phil, what do you feel is the biggest adjustment the other 10 players have to make in this transition from Shea to Jordan?
I'm hoping not much. I'm hoping that the tempo is going to be the same. The game plan is the game plan, and you'd like to see those guys. You want them to rally around the new quarterback. You want them to step up their game a little bit and just let Jordan go out and play his role, make the throws he has to make, run the ball when he needs to, distribute the ball to our talent. And, you just like to play a cleaner game so that he doesn't have to ad-lib much and he doesn't have to do much thinking outside the framework of the play. And, I think they know that. I think they're ready to do that. And I think Jordan and Tommy will be prepared come Saturday.